Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the KongaCast, where we discuss all things video games, especially relating to Nintendo. I'm your host, Adonis, and this is my co-host, Ryan. Say hello, Ryan.
Hello, Adonis. How are you doing today? I feel like we have a pretty interesting episode for today.
I am not happy. I'm sure you can relate.
Yeah, dude. So, weird news happening in the video game world. And just maybe a fair warning to anyone who doesn't really like the negativity or whatever that surrounds politics. Unfortunately, this episode will be a little more political than we've probably ever probably ever even come close to getting before.
Yeah.
And that is because the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order launch in the US and Canada have both been delayed. They were set for today as of this recording, which is the 9th of April. But as of today, Nintendo of America, Nintendo of Canada, not accepting pre-orders for the Switch 2 right now. And it's very explicitly stated why by Nintendo of America, that is because of recent trade policy announcements by the US, specifically the tariff policy that has been enacted as of April 2nd. So, yeah, I think there's no way we can really avoid politics with this one, but it
No,
does
there
kind of
really
lead
isn't.
to this unfortunate news in the video game industry where, piece of hardware that we've been hyping up for a while now, that we've been excited about. Gamers have been wanting to get their hands on this. Me personally, yourself, Adonis, it sounds like we're on board to eventually get a Switch 2 or get one at launch. And now things are very, very murky in America and Canada where it comes to when are we getting this device? And what price point will that be at? Will there be a price increase because of the tariffs? So a lot of fluctuation. Maybe by the time we're doing next week's episode, things have even changed even more. But as of right now, what we know is the release date has not moved. It is still slated for June 5th, I should say. But pre-orders have not gone live for the US and Canada. There's also been some other miscellaneous news that's come out in the last couple of days about the Switch 2. It's just some random daily reports on different hardware specs and stuff like that, which we'll get to in today's episode. But I think we got to talk about the elephant in the room, Adonis. We got to talk about the tariff policy and how that's affecting the lack of pre-order availability for the Switch 2.
Yeah, agreed. Let's just get the tough conversation out of the way first, right? And I'm not a big political guy in general. And in fact, I on that front of politics, I genuinely find myself more on the conservative side. So I agree with what they're trying to do in that they're trying to create better, more fair trade for America and better economic situation for the working class. Love that. I don't know how the hell this is supposed to do that. It's just, I really do think that this is a one size fits all solution with
Yep.
a very risky uh, plan of attack. And it was just announced that the tariffs on other countries were it's delayed for everybody but China, which was increased 125%, which has effects all on its own. That's not part of this conversation. But all tariffs are put on hold for 90 days. And that's not entirely on hold. They were reduced to 10% all across the board. And I do, like we talked about before, Ryan, like I do think that was their plan to begin with. And then they just went out and said that, which is also really strange. I wish they would have just kept that to themselves. It would have made more sense. But, and that affects that being the tariffs on other countries affects every single market in the world. We are the greatest, most spending country of consumers in the world. So everything that we buy everything across the board. Like we're just super consumers in America. And if you affect our ability to buy things, which is what these tariffs are doing functionally, then we can't be the number one consumers anymore. And then the whole global economy reacts. So that was just risky to begin with. And this is why I think not only do we have to deal with a price increase from $60/$70 of games to now $80 and $90 for Nintendo, but now probably even more. Which, like, these things need to be taken into account. You know?
Yeah. Are you more concerned with Nintendo, and are they not taking this into account already in their pricing? Is that what you're concerned with? Or are you
No,
more concerned about the tariffs at large?
what I mean is that the administration should have considered things like this when they made their plan.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's great to have some galaxy brain plan. I would love, that's one of the things that the most recent administration, I think, really did bad, was they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. Now we're going on the old total opposite end of the spectrum and just absolutely doing insane things that affect the global market.
Right.
So, and like this with Nintendo, which was already bad to begin with because of the price increase, and now with these tariffs, yes, I totally understand that the current situation with other countries is that they already had huge tariffs on us. Uh, I totally understand that, and there may or may not have been trade deficits. I don't think Trump fully understands trade deficits, though. That's neither here nor there. Um, but that's because they're so much smaller than us. And I do agree they being the tariffs that other countries set on us, should be lower and it should be more fair. But to just throw things on the opposite side of the spectrum it's just not smart. It's
Right.
incredibly, what's the word? I guess
Foolish.
dangerous. Foolish.
Yeah. So I like the way you put it at the beginning, is when you said, it feels like the trade policy from the U.S. is like a one size fits all try to attempt, right? And clearly that just can't work for an industry like this. The video game industry has three main hardware producers, right? Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo. There's other ones in different markets. If you wanted to consider smartphones as kind of like a gaming device, there's that as well. But primarily in the video game industry, the console video game industry, you're talking three major hardware producers. Um, Two of them being Japanese companies, right? Sony and Nintendo. I understand the concern, I guess, of the administration. They want to repatriate production back to the US for all industries, apparently, because this is, again, a one size fits all kind of tariff to try to do that. The reality, and I don't want to get super economical. I've studied this a lot the last several days. I'm exposed to it with my current job, that kind of thing.
Same, yeah.
The reality of the situation is the US labor costs are way more than Vietnam, China, other country labor costs, right? It is very impractical to try to repatriate something like the creation of hardware to the US, where again, we have a lot stronger, I should say, a higher cost of labor, right? It's nearly impossible to repatriate something like that, where you have higher cost of labor. If I'm trying not to get too much into my political views, but I'll say this:
No,
if
it's
the
okay.
focus should be to bring production back to the U.S., it should be for higher skill jobs. It should be for jobs that have higher end products, where the labor costs are not as steep when it comes to the total cost to create something. What I'm trying to say is, it makes very little sense to try to repatriate something like the video game industry, the hardware creation of the video game industry. These are supply chains where they're already integrated in Vietnam and China, those kinds of countries. Nintendo is a Japanese country. What kind of sense does it make for them to move their production to the US, where hardware or labor costs are 5 times what it is in Vietnam, right? For all those reasons, I think this is a not very great trade policy, just on a policy sense. And how does this affect Nintendo? So, of course, now they are faced with having to delay their hardware launch. Very bad timing for them. It was literally the day they had their big blowout presentation of, wow, this is the new Nintendo Switch. Here's all the cool games. Here's the
Sure
price
was.
point. They literally announced the price point, and then later that day, the U.S. administration launched their announcement on the trade tariffs. So, where does this leave Nintendo? They are in a very, very difficult situation. I think probably like most investors, most companies out there are just looking for some clarity. There's just so much uncertainty in the market right now. If you follow the Dow Jones and you see that daily with the wild swings and the wild upswing that we had today with the announcement of the pause of the tariffs. So if you're Nintendo, you're very much in a wait and see approach, hoping things just get more and more clear as June 5th approaches. Of course, this is going to put more strain on your supply chain already, because if you're not taking pre-orders, you're not getting units out into stores and being ready to meet that demand. So very, very tricky situation for Nintendo, where honestly, a lot of it's just kind of out of their hands. They just need to wait and see what happens. Now, with the announcement of the 90-day tariff pause for countries like Vietnam, there's a little more clarity there. I don't know, Adonis, like what they do though. Do you automatically just reopen pre-orders and price it at $450 and $500 again? Or do you up the cost now with the anticipation that, in reality, in 90 days, this administration is going to try to follow through with their word and the tariffs are just going to come back on Vietnam? I don't know what you do. I don't know what your thoughts on that.
I mean, they're so unpredictable right now that they really could do anything. They being our administration in the United States, they're so erratic with their decision making right now that they may not even go through with it in 90 days, because they didn't technically go through with it now. So that makes the situation even more difficult for them, because they may make a decision in anticipation of our government doing something, and then they just do something completely wild in the other direction, So it adds an extra layer of multiplicative uncertainty, like totally. And also, I wanted to mention, never be afraid to share your political beliefs. I will never, ever hold them against you if I ever disagree with them. I think that we really need more people to be able to talk about their political beliefs without wanting to punch each other in the face. That is for Twitter. That's Twitter thing, not a KongaCast thing. So never be afraid to share that. And so, back to the conversation. What I really think they're going to do is just keep the prices as they are. They already hiked it up once. They're going to make $1 million, billion, quadrillion, quintillion dollars because it's Nintendo. They are the industry leader. The games look fantastic. I do think a lot of people are going to get priced out and are deciding not to buy, but they're still going to make a wild amount of money because of the price increase and because of their reputation. I think that if they go even higher than they are now, they are going to experience an even worse even worse blowback from the community, which will end up affecting their bottom line. I would love if they decreased the prices, because honestly, I feel like they would sell more and do better if they just got as much of the community, the video game buying community, to buy the game. But I don't think they will. Obviously, they're Nintendo, notorious for sticking to their guns, or in this case, bringing bigger guns. So I really do think they keep the pricing where it is. What do you think?
I don't know, man. So I don't want to be negative, but so I definitely want to stick to hardware pricing right now. Software is a whole can of worms. But let's talk at the announcement of the hardware costs. So we talked last week, it was a little bit of a sticker shock with the $450 and $500 pricing, maybe more than people were expecting. I personally was predicting $400 for a unit that would not have a pack-in game. So I was off by about $50. And then, the software is probably a bigger issue for me, but the hardware being $450 and $500, it's more expensive than any Nintendo console ever. I'm not trying to be an apologist. I really don't think it's an outrageous price. It's expensive for sure, and something people should financially plan for, Long are the days of the $200 Wii that was very low in tech and was cheap and would get consoles into people's homes, right? This is a really serious piece of hardware here. This is a piece of hardware that's running Street Fighter 6 and Cyberpunk 2077, right? These are very high-end, modern AAA games, right? I understand. I would love it to be cheaper, right? I'm a consumer. Cheaper is better. But I fully understand the $450 and the $500 price points. That being said, I unfortunately, Adonis, do think we will see a price increase with these tariffs. Now, we do have the 90-day pause. So if you're Nintendo, again, how do you position this? Launch is like 2 months away. So if launch is 2 months away, do you get the bad blood out of the way first and just say, hey, next week, it's going to be middle of April. We're going to go ahead. We're reopening pre-orders. We're sorry, consumers. We have to price it at $550 and $600. Now, that's the new price because of these, 50% tariffs on Vietnam or whatever it is. I don't remember the exact percent, but it's high for Vietnam, right? I predict that's going to happen. Now, again, who knows with this administration? This stuff is changing rapidly, almost daily. I think also if you're a consumer who's looking for some positive light here, it appears that Vietnam is one of the first countries to really come to the table with Trump to try to negotiate from this position that he's
wonder why
staking. And yeah, part of it is because Vietnam's economy is very much so tied to the U.S.'s economy. I believe the U.S. is importing about 400 or 500 billion USD worth of goods from Vietnam as of the last year or so. And so that's part of why they got this that's why this administration got this crazy calculation of, hey, we need to price the tariffs on Vietnam, whatever it was, 50, 60%. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was high, right? Part of that is because we have a very large trade deficit with Vietnam. But again, that's by design. But again, that's my politics right there coming out. Mm-hmm. What does Nintendo do? I do think 550 and 600 is probably the price point we'll be looking at now. And I think if you're Nintendo, you kind of announce that in the next week or two and say, we're sorry, until the tariffs are completely gone away from Vietnam with whatever negotiation unfolds with the leaders of Vietnam and and our U.S. leadership here, then that's going to be the price. So I hate to be a little negative, Nancy, but I think that's just what's going to happen. And unfortunately, that's just what happens with tariff trade policy. The cost just gets passed on to consumers.
Yeah, and that goes back to just the ignorance of the current administration, right? I do, like I said, I'm generally a conservative guy. I grew up on a farm, for God's sake. So I just, and I do really like that they're being more proactive and actually doing things. That's great. But this just feels way too one size fits all, that you can't be having that with a global decision. That is very irresponsible. So I'm just venting my frustration with all of this. It's just, and I can't even imagine the other governments of other countries dealing with this. I feel very bad for them. And I understand you don't want to be negative, but being realistic is also important. My prediction of them keeping it where it is unrealistic in this situation. So I think also, if I'm being honest, that's what I think they're going to do too.
Yeah. And by the way, to anyone who's coming out and saying, oh, maybe they're redacting the pre-orders because they're reevaluating the price point and they're going to lower it. That is a complete pipe dream. I just want to get that out of the way right now. That is not, they specifically said that the reason they're pausing pre-orders is because of tariffs. So that means they're reevaluating if they need to increase the price. I am sorry, everyone. No one likes to hear that. Sorry to be a wet towel, but that's the reality. You're not going to get a cheaper price point than $450 for this device. I would expect a price hike. I would love it to stay the same. We just have to wait and see, man. It's been a very fluid last couple days with these tariff announcements and then applying the tariffs and then not applying the tariffs as of today. They're on a 90-day pause. So unless Nintendo builds a factory in the US in 90 days that's going to be cheaper to manufacture all of this really eloquent hardware that can ship to your house cheaper than $450, it is not going down from $450.
I love the way you put that. It's just not happening.
Well, that's I don't know if that's what this administration wants or if they believe that's possible. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but the one size fits all. Sure, if you wanted to target specific industries and target specific American companies to try to benefit, you do that by targeting specific industries or targeting specific countries. The one size fits all nature is completely ludicrous in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree. And I really do think that they're going to hike it, but expect the worst, but hope for the best. I think that's where we can kind of operate right now. Now, we've been very hard on our own administration for good reason. But now it's time to be hard on Nintendo.
Yeah.
I got a bone to pick with them. I am not happy. So let me start with this, okay? A while back, the president of Xbox at the time, now is Phil Spencer, made a very interesting comment when the Xbox One was being released. The Xbox One was originally supposed to be a fully online console, and people were not happy with that. And in an interview, this guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. You could look him up.
Don Matrick. I remember his name off the top of my head because this was a bogus, and he's no longer the president of Xbox for a lot of reasons. But go ahead. I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, I know. It's okay. He said that if you do not have access to internet, then just go buy the Xbox 360. That is
the console, in the previous gen. Yeah.
Yes. By the previous generation. That was the gist of what he said. Not exactly word for word. That is one of the most infamous statements ever said in a video game interview ever, because it was just absolutely absurd that somebody would recommend the previous hardware that does not have access to the new games on the new console. Well, Nintendo decided to take a page out of this guy's book. And in an interview, Bill Trinan, that's his name, right? Bill Trinan?
It was Doug Bowser that said this, but go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Doug Bowser. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for reminding me about Doug Bowser.
No, it was the president. Doug Bowser is his name.
I like the idea of just Bowser being the head of Nintendo talking to interviewers.
It is pretty funny that the head of Nintendo of America, his last name is Bowser. That is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I totally forgot. Yeah, this statement was in fact from Bill Trinan though, where he had mentioned in an interview that he thinks this is just so... I'm sorry. I'm totally flabbergasted that this was said. Generally, what people should do if they are priced out of the Switch 2, that they should buy the Switch 1. That they should enter our gaming universe by buying the Nintendo Switch 1. That is so ignorant of the fact that, one, the Switch 1 is still, its MSRP is still what it released with, officially sold by Nintendo. And two, none of the new games or upgrades or anything are on that console. So he's basically telling them to buy a dead console that is not being developed for if they can't afford it. And that they should just buck up and pay the extra money for the new console. And oh, you know what? I think I did mix up the quotes. I think that was Doug Bowser that said that. And then this next one, I believe, was Bill Trinan. I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head. But the next statement that I really wanted to hammer down on was the inclusion of variable pricing. They meant the mention of variable pricing. Now, the gist of this statement was that they're looking at games, comprehensively and pricing them variably with the amount of manpower, effort, development, all that stuff that goes into the game. That doesn't apply to the price floor though, only the ceiling, because games are still $60 and $70. Those don't go down. No. The variable pricing only applies to games getting more expensive. So you're just lying. You're just straight up lying about that. Like, that's just not true. You're just making games more expensive as you want to. That is not variable pricing. That is just inflation.
Yeah, I see your point, Adonis. I think outside of the tariffs and all that discussion, there has just been some gripe around the general pricing pre-tariff, whatever shenanigans are happening now, right? The 450, 500 we talked about, but now the discussion on the software itself and how sometimes games are 70, sometimes 80. I do think Nintendo is kind of stepping on some landmines here with some of this PR. It's a really difficult minefield to navigate here. But for them to say, yeah, there's just like some games we value at 80 and some we value at 70. They're basically just saying, to the question, why are some of these games 80? The answer is because we felt like it, which is like a really tough reason for a lot of consumers to swallow. If they came out and said, oh, Mario Kart is priced at 80 because we're going to be updating this throughout the generation, who knows if that's their plan? I don't know. None of that's confirmed. But like maybe there would be a little more credence with fans. But to come out and basically say, oh, we're pricing it at 80 because we value it at 80, it's a tough pill to swallow. It's the same the same spiel they gave when Tears of the Kingdom was priced at 70. And people weren't like ecstatic about Tears of the Kingdom being priced at 70 on the Switch 1. But
yeah,
it was also at the time, this was 2023. PS5 games that were, big AAA PS5 games were now going to be 70. That was already happening for several years. So it was a little bit less of a blow. But the 80 is a sticker shock for a lot of people. And again, it's really, to me, like just blowing right past 70. That's what really disappointing is I think we were all kind of expecting Switch 2 games to cost 70, but the fact that some are costing 80. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which was a Switch 1 game, is now costing 80 on the Switch 2 with its added content. It's tough, man. And I don't know if Nintendo is navigating it the best way with that kind of language. And your former point with comparing it to Don Metric when he was head of Xbox, yeah, it was basically like verbatim the same situation where it's like, oh, well, if you don't like something about the Switch 2, just play the Switch 1. Just buy the Switch 1 and play that. Not a great look. I do not like that messaging to your fans. In actuality, that is what happens. That is what happens for, families. Maybe you have young kids. They don't care about the latest, greatest specs, but they want to play Nintendo games. You buy them a Switch 1 when you see it on discount at Target for 200 instead of 300. That happens a lot. That happens every generation. You don't usually see the executives coming out and saying it, and it kind of alienates the fan base, right?
Yeah. It was just a PR nightmare. And ideally, like let's say I'm the CEO of Nintendo and I wanted to fix this whole situation. What I'm going to say is, hi, I hear everybody's trepidation with the increase in price for our games. This is because, one, our games are much bigger and much more graphically intensive and very much so offering tons of content and free DLC forever and free updates forever. There's so many ways for them to justify somewhat, cordially with the community. Like there's so many ways for them to justify it better than what they are saying right now. But they're just deciding to just throw nonsense, to throw non-answers at the community. And it feels so disrespectful. Like Nintendo already had bad blood with the community for all these random lawsuits going on against content creators, against game developers that are just like, it's just like super punching down sort of stuff, this super conglomerate mega corporation going after much smaller entities. And now it's just even worse.
Yeah. And pricing's been an issue on Switch 1 as well because, towards the tail end of Switch 1's lifespan, there's been more remakes and remasters. And with that, like people are like, oh, maybe a remake should cost $30. But, we get a game like the Mario vs. Donkey Kong remake, which is a remake of a Game Boy Advance game that's a little more simple in scope, a little lesser in game length, if those things matter to you as a gamer, and it's priced at $50, and people are like, well, that's a lot for a Mario versus Donkey Kong remake, So like Nintendo's already been a little bit of hot water with their fans with the pricing, but I will remind everyone, please vote with your wallet. If something is too expensive, yes, you can complain about it, but do not feel forced to buy it or feel like you're missing out or whatever. It absolutely sucks, and I kind of hate that I will enable the problem, but honestly, if push comes to shove, Mario Kart World to me is probably worth $80. I would probably pick it up at that price. I'm still tossing around the idea of not buying at launch and maybe buying a month or two later and seeing if the game goes on sale for $60. But who knows? I'm still wrestling with that in my head. The tariff thing's kind of throwing everything out of proportion now for me. So,
True.
yeah, that's just me personally. But it's very fair to complain about this kind of thing. I'm very concerned about the precedent this sets. I think this completely opens the door for Sony, Microsoft to jump on the $80 software wagon as well.
Which they will.
And obviously Nintendo is comfortable at this price, so they're probably going to be doing it for other big AAA games that they put out as well. So I'm concerned about the precedent this sets for sure.
Yeah, agreed. I've never been closer to not buying a Nintendo console and Nintendo games. I know I'm probably going to give in, and they know that too, because the gaming community has notoriously very little willpower.
Away with this.
They can't keep getting away with this. Yeah, it's a great meme for this whole situation, isn't it? But we are in situations that we are able to afford this price increase. Imagine how many millions of people are not. That's why I'm pissed. And I feel so bad for those people because I have been there. I have been there, especially in the financial crisis of the late 2000s with the housing market. Like, I've been there where we couldn't afford the current content and it killed me as a child. It was so sad. So I just a gross situation, and the way they're handling it is just a spit in the face to their fans, man. Just gross. But
yeah, I honestly I didn't expect 80 from Nintendo. I didn't think they'd be the first one to go that route, but here we are.
Like they're industry leaders, and they should lead in a much more responsible way, not just trying to take. Period. That's the end of the sentence. Not just trying to take like they are.
Right.
So I think it's time for us to move on from this. I'm getting heated.
Yeah, I think like part of the frustration is because the Switch 2 looks so good. The games look really good. The hardware looks really cool. I'm really excited about the tech. I'm more excited about the tech than I thought I would. But I mean, when I saw Metroid Prime 4 running at 4K 60 frames per second, I was enamored by that. It looked amazing. And all the new hardware, the mouse mode. I care about it a lot more than I thought I would. All this to say is, look, we're still excited for the Switch 2. It sucks that there's a lot of junk surrounding it right now. Some of it outside of Nintendo's control, some within their control. I wish all the junk would go away and we could just kind of like get excited again for the product at hand. If I decide to pick it up, if you decide to pick it up, if anyone listening decides to pick it up. Because there's a lot of cool things here with the Switch 2. And I hate that I feel like I'm white knighting for Nintendo, but honestly, at the end of the day, I'm still excited for this hardware. I'm gonna make this work, to make sure I can, I'm not overextending myself financially, all that good stuff. But Adonis, there was a lot of other random Nintendo Switch 2 news that's kind of been leaking out a little bit here day by day, little news nuggets as they come. We've got confirmation of DLSS support, which is 4K upscaling AI technology. We have a look at the OS and eShop that looks very, very similar to the Nintendo Switch 1's eShop and OS system. We got confirmation that Switch 2 enhancement upgrades cost $10 for Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. We got Rewind feature coming to N64 NSO. Just a plethora of little tiny news nuggets that have been coming out. Has there anything that's like really come out lately that's like caught your eye or that you would want to discuss?
Well, the no Hall effect is a huge missed opportunity for such relatively. I am not an industry expert. I am not on the inside. I don't know how much it actually costs to do this, but this feels like such an easy win on an improvement, like for something that was really bad for the Switch 1. I cannot believe that they are not doing the Hall effect. $10.
The no Hall effect sticks was very surprising to me, but I was kind of ignorant to the tech. So what this is, for anyone who's unacquainted, Hall effect sticks are joysticks that are drift proof. They will never drift because they are constantly syncing with sensors and magnets underneath the stick, right? And that is different than the Nintendo Switch 1. Their Joy-Con is not a Hall effect stick. It is susceptible to drift over time. And as we all know, those sticks drifted very soon after for many consumers. It's unfortunate that this tech is not in the Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Cons, but I think a lot of the discussion I was reading was it might be impossible because the Switch 2 Joy-Cons already have magnets that connect to the console itself. So they're not able to implement Hall effect sticks because of that. Otherwise, you'll have the magnets conflicting with each other underneath the shell of the Joy-Con. That's the theory. Now, if Nintendo hasn't made substantial improvements to their standard sticks, I would be shocked, because this was a huge problem with the Switch 1, and a lot of warranty claims, a lot of people calling customer service over this. So I think they would definitely want to avoid that headache. It sucks that we don't know about, like, is this 100% solved? I still feel like 99% of this has to be solved, right? They can't, Adonis, be so ignorant to roll out very similar tech. I really hope they improved it, even if it's not a Hall effect stick.
Yeah, agreed. They have to. I can deal with 30 frames and 720p. I cannot deal with a controller that doesn't work, because then I just have to go buy another one, usually aftermarket, which doesn't go to Nintendo, which is something they should be thinking about when making these controllers. So yeah, just a bad look. And the two things that I wanted to mention, all of which are $10, coincidentally, Breath of the Wild and TOTK enhanced upgrades being $10. The $10 is the same price of some entire games. For $10 is not the value for a graphics upgrade, minor added content, and performance upgrades. That's gross. And I think it also is that if you have a Nintendo Switch Online, you do get access to them. But does that mean if you stop using Nintendo Switch Online, you lose access to them?
Yeah, that is what that means. They've confirmed that.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So exactly. So, that was my worry, and now I'm sad. So, and the other $10 game is the Switch 2 demo game. And their explanation as to why it was $10 was exactly the same thing that we were angry about in the previous segment. Astrobot was free, and that was a full game. I played it. It was amazing, and I loved it. I learned so much about the PS5 and PS4 back in the day. Like, it was just awesome. Why is this not free? It's like a manual. It should come with the hardware, not be charged $10. That's it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, the name doesn't roll off the tongue either. Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. I every time I want to say the name of this game, I have to look it up because I don't remember the name. But the game you're referring to is Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour.
That's the one.
So bizarre that this is not a pack-in. This is like a layup for a pack-in. It's a game that basically gives you a tour of the Nintendo Switch 2, and you're a little guy who just walks around the device, and you click on icons and you learn about the tech that's in the Nintendo Switch 2. And there are mini games in the game as well that they literally describe as tech demos. Nintendo's called them tech demos. You would think this is the perfect showcase for the console. Why would you not pack this in? Why is this not pre-downloaded on all Nintendo Switch 2s? Instead, it's being charged on the eShop for $10. $10 is like not too much, but like at that point, it's like, are you really getting the return on this game that you would expect? I mean, it almost feels like this would have a better return and sit better with consumers if it was just pre-installed in the system. Even for $10, I don't really see myself picking this up. I don't think you'll pick it up based off your
Are you kidding me?
So
no way.
It's going to miss a lot of consumers because it's just not packed in. Weird decision there, but they gave the same kind of answer as what we were talking about earlier, where it was mostly, we think the value of the game warrants the $10 price. So I think Nintendo's like missing the mark with that one. I don't know if they're really going to see like a huge return on this software that they would expect, even at a cheaper price of $10. Like, who's going to pick this up? It's basically a tour guide for what the console can do. It's a perfect tech demo to pack in with the console.
Agreed. I think it would sell the console even more if it was free. But yeah, you can have your $10 from all 5 people that are going to buy this game, Nintendo. There you go. You did it.
Yeah, dude. So weird week for Nintendo. It felt like the initial Nintendo Direct was so awesome, so positive, and then we had pricing come out. We had tariff news come out, and now we have like weird, more pricing anomaly stuff coming out as well. The other non-pricing stuff, honestly, I'm still excited for this console, and there's a lot of cool features that are coming out. We mentioned DLSS support. DLSS support is basically a 4K upscaling technology utilizing AI that really works pretty well from what I understand. There's some phones that have this and other devices. I'm not too in the weeds on this, but I don't think like other consoles have this tech. Maybe the PS5 does, but this is something more modern that's come about in the last like 3 or 4 years. It's basically a energy efficient way to get to a believable 4K. It's not native 4K texture, but it's believable enough that if you use it in the right way, as developers use it in the right way, it looks good for your game. So that kind of tech is exciting to me. So yeah, I mean, I think like other things I'm excited about is the GameCube games coming to NSO. We talked about that last week. I thought Adonis would be cool if we do a little bit more of a deep dive into that. So the GameCube games we've already got confirmed. We have 3 confirmed for launch. We have a couple more confirmed for release window. But man, the GameCube is a fantastic library with some fantastic games. Even if you aren't counting that, all the Nintendo published stuff is really excellent and really cool. But there's a lot of good third parties too. So Adonis, what are some cool GameCube games that you hope come to NSO?
There are 2, one of which we already kind of talked about. Yes, are Nintendo made, technically. Not technically, definitely. Melee. Smash Melee's got to make its way on there. 1000%. We already talked about that one. The other one that I really, really, really want is Mario Superstar Baseball.
Nice.
Oh my God, man. So I am a huge Sluggers fan. And then after I played Sluggers on the Wii, I went and played Mario Baseball Superstars. Superstar Baseball. There we go. I got there eventually.
There you go.
And I really liked it. I think this is very much so along the lines of something they could do like Mario Tennis on the NSO, where it's just like all the boys are together, we're hanging out, we want to play a Mario sport game. Let's boot up the NSO and play Mario Superstar Baseball. I would love that.
Yeah, those are great choices. I very much believe those will come to the service at some point. Smash Mail, the best thing about this service is the ease of online that you would get. Playing Super Smash Bros. Melee in upscaled HD online with your friends, that is like the dream come true. And to do it on official hardware. Of course, there's mods out there that do this already. Yeah. But it'd be great to have it on official hardware from Nintendo. Excuse me. Mario Superstar Baseball, that was also on my list, Adonis. That is a great choice. I played it. It is a fantastic game. I like the Wii one a little bit more, but the GameCube one has a lot of charm, and it's fun too. If you're not a fan of swinging the Wii remote to swing the baseball bat, you could just play with the GameCube controller in this game, and it's a lot of fun. Also, the umpire says strike very funnily. It is a very funny way he says strike. So you have that to look forward to when this ever gets added to the service. But yeah, for me, I had those 2 on my list. I also had all of the Mario parties. Just give me all of the Mario parties. All right. There were 4 on the GameCube. This was actually the era where people were getting sick of Mario parties. They were doing annual releases, and people were like, why are they doing annual releases for Mario Party? But I think everyone kind of looks back on these 4, especially 6 and 7, pretty fondly. I think if they're only going to do one, you should do Mario Party 6. But 4, 5, 6, and 7, just bring them all. That's my request.
Agreed. 100% agreed. Yeah, it sucked at the time getting so many Mario parties, but now I want them all. I want them all on there.
Yeah, dude.
Totally. There's another couple that I really I find. There are actually 3 of them that I really want, so I'm being a little bit picky. I'm gonna be picky when you make me pay you $80 for your games, Nintendo. Simpsons Hit and Run would be a really, really fun one to have on there. Yeah, that's just a timeless classic. For me, I loved the Lego Star Wars games when I was a kid. It'd be great to play that on the GameCube NSO once again. And maybe the best use of a real life song in a video game, SSX Tricky would be really, really cool. I played that a lot. I actually played a little bit. I think it was on the PS2 as well. I loved like snowboarding games. It's like this like super very much so a product of its time, totally, with
Right.
its effects and character designs. But like at the end of the day, it's just uh, a snowboarding game where you could do lots of cool tricks, and it's got the song "Tricky" by, I don't remember the name of that artist. It's tricky. That he
It's
says
tricky
that.
to remember.
Yeah, it's tricky to remember, but he says it's tricky a lot. Also, you know what song I'm talking about. It's just a really fun little game.
Yeah, dude, I've heard good things about SSS Tricky. I've never played it myself, but I love 1080 on the N64, and this is
Yeah,
basically like there is a 1080 Avalanche on GameCube, but people don't like it as much. I think people gravitate more towards SSS Tricky for your snowboarding game on the GameCube. That'd be
yeah,
really cool to see. I would also love to see the Star Fox games on GameCube. There were two. There was Star Fox Adventures and Star Fox Assault. And this was the beginning of the end of the series. At this point, there was a DS game that released after this, but then the series kind of went radio silent for a bit until we got the 3DS game that's a remake of the N64 game. And then we got Star Fox Zero on the Wii U. We don't need to talk about Star Fox Zero on the Wii U. Um, Star Fox Adventures and Assault on the GameCube are really fun in their own ways. They're very different from the rest of the series. Star Fox Adventures honestly plays more like a Zelda game than a Star Fox game, but I grew up with it. I appreciated it at the time. I sold my copy when I was a kid because I literally remember people online talking trash about the game, and I kind of liked it. But this was stupid me, 11 years old or 10 years, whatever I was. I was probably younger than 10. I sold it to GameStop because I was like, the reviewers say the game's not good, so I got to get rid of it. And I wish I didn't because it's kind of fun. I still enjoy it. So I'd like to see the both Star Fox games. Assault's great too. I've only played about 30 minutes or an hour of Assault, but it's fun. It's a fun time too.
yeah. That's just such a good game to have on the service because it's like you pick it up, play it like a fun arcade game every once in a while. Like, yeah, those, not even that. Like, they're good full games on its own that you can actually dedicate time to, which I think is like really cool about the GameCube. Um, the GameCube service. Like, we're getting more into the realm of more feature complete and games that stand alone.
Right.
Obviously um, the N64 NSO has many games like that. Of course, don't get me wrong, but this is really like these games are bringing a lot more to the table.
These are
So
substantial.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's really exciting. All the bad stuff aside, like this was one of, if not the highlight of the Switch 2 Direct for me. No, it wasn't the highlight. Let's be honest. Donkey Kong and Bloodborne 2, quote unquote, were my
Yeah,
highlight.
dude.
But
I was
like
gonna
it
say
was,
what?
yeah,
Not
it
Bloodborne
was
2.
for me. I love the GameCube and I love GameCube games, and this means that more are coming, which is just awesome.
Yes. Yeah, also part of why I love a service like this is it gives you a chance to try games you otherwise would not try. Because if we had the model that was on the Wii, where you can buy a virtual game for $5, $10, whatever, are you ever gonna buy baseball on the NES for $5? Probably not. But if it's on the Nintendo Switch service, you can try it. You already have the service, you're gonna try it, whatever. So in that spirit, I love the quirky games that come to the service that are otherwise kind of looked over. Two that I have in mind, Adonis. I've about this game a little bit with you. Eternal Darkness Sentity's Requiem. I think you may have heard about this game. It is like a cult classic horror game that started the sanity meter that kind of like went on to games like Amnesia and other horror games. So this would be a fantastic addition to the service. Unfortunately, it is in licensing hell. The developers
Oh,
of this game are Silicon Knights, who are defunct. And I think there's speculation that the IP is held 50-50 with Silicon Knights and Nintendo. And at this point, whoever bought out Silicon Knights, it's just going to be a little bit of a mess to get this game on the service. If Nintendo can do it, it would be more pie in the sky. It would be awesome if they could do it. Another quirky game I have for you, Adonis, Doshin the Giant. Have you ever heard of Doshin the Giant, my friend?
no.
Okay, you're probably a very normal person. That's why you've never heard of Doshin the Giant. Doshin the Giant is what's considered a god simulator where you play as a giant named Doshin. And you can basically you could be nice to the villagers that you oversee, or you can rain down like lightning on them and be mean to them, and if you do that you become a devil. um it is a bizarre looking game. I have never tried it. It never released in North America. It only released in Europe and Japan. So that's kind of why I love services like these. I would love if a game like Doshin the Giant could come to Nintendo GameCube NSO.
Man, you were waiting to talk about this one, weren't you?
I've been waiting the entire KongaCast to talk about Doshin the Giant.
You can tell by how many times he's saying the name of the game over and over again. I genuinely really like this. I actually really, really like the idea of this. That sandbox of being good to your people or being evil. Like,
Yeah,
it just satisfies an itch that you can't get in real life because, we're normal, everyday people who treat everyone very nicely, right? We don't ever treat people badly.
absolutely.
Never. But like being able to play a game where you can play just a wrathful god is sometimes kind of fun. And this has this like old gem charm to it. I kind of want to kind of want to do the E word with this game. That is
Ooh,
E starts with E and ends in mulator. Um,
could be big.
I would feel bad about that, but Nintendo, you suck. So take
Well,
that.
maybe they'll put it on the GameCube NSO, Adonis, and then you
Oh
can play
yeah,
Doshin the Giant from the comfort of your own couch.
yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
Any other GameCube games you hope come to NSO?
Off the top of my head, Resident Evil, like
Oh,
the
that'd
Resident
be
Evil
sick.
games got to come to the GameCube NSO, man. Like we got to see Resident Evil 4. Um, yeah, that's really all I could think about off the top of my head. Just I really am excited for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting getting a new console on Nintendo Switch Online because it just immediately the doors are open. It's like, well, man, what games can they put on? And I love speculating what games they can and will not put on because it's almost like a little game in my eyes. Like, if you're Nintendo, what do you want to offer as like this is like part of the GameCube experience? Obviously Mario Sunshine, Wind Waker. I assume Twilight Princess eventually will come, but like what are some other things that make the GameCube the GameCube? I think that's kind of like the game within the game that I like to speculate on, if you will. And this is probably like way too, rabbit hole for anyone besides myself and you. But I kind of like to see what they put on a service like this and what they kind of like want to bring value to people like ourselves who have the service. So
Yeah. Also, best controller ever made, by the way.
yes, dude. Do you think you'll pick up the new controller? They have a new GameCube controller that's going to be wireless that they're going to put on their website soon. It's going to be $3,000.
Yeah, I'm not buying any peripherals from Nintendo. No, no,
Yeah.
no. I'm buying the game. I am buying the license to the game that I want to play and the console. Nothing else.
Mm-hmm. I get that. All right, man. Well, anything else? Video games you want to chat before we get into what we've been playing recently?
No, I think it's been a bit of a grim episode, but and I feel very bad for anybody that's priced out of playing the current generation of Nintendo. I probably will cave. Not probably. Let's be honest. Um, but like Ryan said before, if you have the willpower, vote with your wallet. If you don't, like I probably won't, to keep speaking out about it. Because if enough of us say something, they have to do something eventually. So
Yeah.
that's all I got for this week.
Yeah, well said. All right, well, why don't we get into what we've been playing recently then? So, I have been playing a little bit of The Last of Us Part 2, my guy.
Right.
It has released on Steam as of April 3rd. I picked it up same day, and I think this is the perfect game to kind of tide me over until Switch 2, whether that's going to be a June pickup or later. This game will definitely tide me over till then. And it's been a great experience so far. I'm playing it just like I did Last of Us Part 1. I've been playing it, the remastered version, on my Steam Deck. It's got all the bells and whistles of the remastered version. And I've been enjoying it, man. It looks and plays just like Part 1 to me. I can't say anything about the story because it's a game you got to experience for yourself. The story is the biggest draw. I don't want to say anything about the story. I will say, 3 hours in, 4 hours in, I like the direction the story's going so far, and that's all I'm gonna say. But it looks and plays fantastic. I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, say what you will about the story. That is a beautifully crafted video game. I did not personally buy it because I had the story spoiled for me and didn't love where it went
Mm.
because I literally played the first one because of the story and some things uh, got taken out for lack of a better word from the storyline that I didn't love. That has nothing to do with the gameplay though. The gameplay that is just
Gameplay's fun.
beautiful and the visuals are stellar, especially
Yeah.
on higher end consoles. So, yeah, my thing does not reflect on the quality of the game at all. So, yeah, you're going to love that game.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. And back to the gameplay. I mean, obviously the draw is the story, but the gameplay is really solid. Like
Yeah.
I play on the second easiest difficulty, which is like they have like 6 or 7 difficulties. They have a lot. But
Oh,
I prefer just like the smooth experience. I'm not like frustrated. I'm dying all the time. I'm doing my thing. You know, I can still get shot, but I really like the gameplay. I like sneaking up on enemy characters and enemy I don't want to say zombies. They specifically don't like it when you say zombies, but I'm going to say zombies. I like the survival aspects of picking up ammo, supplies. It's fun. I really like the gameplay. So, yeah, what have you been playing this week, man?
well, I've been playing, as we know, been playing some Ashes of Creation. I took some time away to let the community, the very toxic community, kind of equalize. It seems as though they've reached some sort of a critical mass with that stuff, and the company has caught on to start moderating better. The company as in Intrepid, they're going to be actually moderating more. May or may not be the result of lots of tickets that I sent to them. Thank you, Intrepid.
Mm.
Um, so the bad eggs are going to get kicked out eventually. There's no place for the kind of hate that was pouring out about this game that's not even finished yet. You know, just a really weird thing to be angry about. Like what you're doing in a game that's not even released yet, that is an alpha, many years, not many, but like a couple years out of release. Just
People
strange
don't have their
behavior.
priorities straight. You know.
Yeah, no, they really don't. Like we're here to test the game, not to derive our ego, or not to feed our ego. Um, but I still have been talking to my fellow guildies who I play the game with. Been helping them, the newer people, learn how to do PvP and just doing like inter guild events, classic fun social sandbox stuff that it literally happens outside the game. Like that's just awesome that we have events about outside the game and still have a good time. And I've also been playing Monster Hunter. Capcom,
Nice.
thank you for being the actual shining example of what a gaming company should be. This game is at this point the second best game I've ever played.
Wow, dude.
This game
That's
is
big.
awesome. I'm functionally done the content. At least last week I was. And then a free title update came out. It reimagined the final boss, which I won't mention, as a high rank fight. So you get better. You actually get like an armor set now out of it, and weapons and gear and all that, and rewards. Very hard fight. It kicked my butt. I was pissed, but the good kind of pissed, where I like I'm gonna
Yeah.
do this, and I did, and I learned the fight. I learned its moves. It's hard, very much so harder than anything else in the game. Um, and they added another monster, which is also really difficult, Mizutsune, which is like a cool like underwater dragon monster that shoots bubbles. It's got bubbles, lots of bubbles.
Okay. I like bubbles.
Um, yeah, and it's a very difficult fight. It's up there with the end game boss, like the one of the only 8-star fights you can do. Um, and that's been a lot of fun. I actually haven't even done that yet, so I it's content for me still to play. And they introduced a grand hub, which was missing out of the base game, and a lot of people wanted really, really bad. One of the coolest things about Monster Hunter is everything outside of the combat. Like the world is beautiful. The community has so many like tools at their disposal given to them by the devs to interact, like the guild card system, the guild system, the hubs that players can hang out in. This Grand Hub is absolutely beautiful, as they are in every other Monster Hunter game. There's barrel bomb bowling. It's like a mini game. There's differing events that go on throughout like the as time goes on in the Grand Hub. If you stay there for a while, this random like opera singer will just come out and start singing a brand new song that like is one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard in my life. I listen to it every morning now on my way to work.
That's kind of rad.
It's such a good song. Look, if you want to hear it, look up Monster Hunter Wild's Grand Hub song. Such a good song. Like total tearjerker for my fellow Monster Hunter fans. And if you sit in your tent while it's going on, it will sound like there's a concert going on in the background.
Oh, that's kind of sick.
Like, you know, like
I love transitional music when you go to a different setting in the game and the song in the background changes a little bit.
Yeah, like you'll hear the concert going on in the background. And when you go up to the concert, you can shoot like fireworks. You can drink a mug of whatever they're drinking, presumably not alcohol. You can scream and dance, and this is all non-combat. This is just stuff they threw in because they thought it would be cool, and it's free.
Yeah, dude. Capcom's really generous with the free updates when it comes to Monster Hunter, especially. I remember Rise getting a crap ton of updates even before they got, the Sunbreak DLC that was paid for. But all the free stuff they add into the game, it's cool. And Capcom knows it's their best series now. It's bigger than Street Fighter in terms of sales, in terms of popularity. So they take good care of it. And they take good care of the player base, which is neat.
Yeah, totally. And I really do love Capcom for what they gave me in this game as a Monster Hunter fan. Like, this is exactly what I wanted and more. The performance has improved greatly. And now we have these other title updates to look forward to. I also forgot to add the other part of the title update. I totally forgot. There's another monster coming, which is an arch-tempered version of one of the Apex, like the Apex Predators, which is Ray Dow. So arch-tempered Ray Dow is coming. It's just coming at the later this month in an event quest. So more content that's totally free. But yeah, you're totally right. They totally take care of us, and it seems that they take care of their other big game franchises. So like, Capcom, hats off to you. Thank you.
Yeah, dude. That's dope. Glad you're enjoying that, man. The only other game I've been playing in the last couple days is I've been playing WarioWare Move It, which I've played before. Ooh. I've already completed, but my buddy Anton was in town. Shout out my buddy Anton. And he's just a Wario guy, all right? So we played a little bit of the multiplayer for WarioWare Move It, and I love this game. I love all WarioWare games, but this is a great one, especially. You use the Joy-Cons to like move in like ridiculous ways to complete all the micro games, and all the micro games just put a smile on my face. They're all just like goofy or silly, and it was fun playing with him. There's one multiplayer mode that is complete BS. It's basically a mini Mario Party where there's like 10 spaces you have to move, and you're trying to get to the goal. But all the spaces you land on are ridiculous. Like I was winning most of the micro games, so I would get to roll. And I one time landed on a square that just flipped the start and the goal. So all of a sudden Anton was like in the lead, and the next time he rolled, he just won. I was just like, all right. So
Ryan, I have to say
it's BS, but it's like part of the fun.
That's how I feel every time I play against you in a game, where just something crazy will happen, or you'll pull off some crazy move where you'll just win. Now you know what it's like. That's that I love that game. In fact, I'd love to play that next time I see you.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Let's do it. Yeah, it was fun to play the multiplayer. I hadn't done the multiplayer. I did the whole single player campaign and really enjoyed it. But it was cool to do the multiplayer with a friend. So, but other than that, man, I think that's the only two games I've really been playing this week.
Yeah, I've been playing a little bit of Helldivers as well, which has been a lot of fun. Nothing too crazy on that front. Things are progressing. The black hole's getting closer to Super Earth. But yeah, other than that, that's all I've been playing this week as well. So it's been a tough episode. Tough times. But tough times make tough people. Hang in there, my friends. Vote with your wallets. Speak out about how you feel. Be kind to each other. Let's not get too crazy now. So, is it time to wrap it up?
I think so, man.
All right. That's going to do it for this edition of the KongaCast. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this episode. If you like what you heard, make sure to rate 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Music and follow the show to hear more. To stay up to date on the show, make sure to follow us on Twitter at KongaCast. For all business inquiries, please email koncast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.
Bye bye.